What's going on, everybody? We are back. We got episode number 95 of the Club and Sub podcast. Tonight, we're going to be talking about UFC Vegas 275. The only one from the usual crew here tonight is me. You got me, John, and MMA Fox. But I have Aaron Watershow on Twitter at Top Keiki. Is it Keiki? How do you pronounce it?
Yeah, Kaiki. It's just like that's what people used to call me in college.
Kaiki.
Cheers.
We are going to be breaking down this entire podcast, this entire card, start to finish. Talk about some bets here. Aaron, anything that stands out in this card that you're interested in? Any favorite fights? Any thoughts?
I think the card's actually decent. It's probably like it's a pretty mid pay-per-view card, but I'm excited for the main event actually. I love Jerry. I love him from a betting perspective necessarily, but I love his character is hilarious. I see him on fucking Twitter doing some samurai shit. So I'm interested to see how he does because I know he went down and trained at Fight Ready. So we'll see. I also saw a clip today where Cejudo was like, "Did you see that clip?" He was like, "Yeah, I wish he worked more on his wrestling." So
I mean, Jury is like in a division that has almost no fun in it at 205. Like Jury is like a breath of fresh air.
Bro, but yeah, he's the man.
We'll get into that. We'll get into that fight a bit later. Yeah, I'm excited for it. Honestly, you're right. It is, I guess, from a name value perspective, it's kind of mid, and there's a couple fights that could end up being grappling heavy. But I don't think it's the worst in the world. We've definitely had worse pay-per-views in the last 12 months.
They've set us up because these past few weeks we've had some way below mid.
And we got some bad ones coming up too. So
yeah,
you know,
we're just getting used to the quality down here.
So with that, we'll jump right in. First fight of the night, we got Ramona Pascual. She's taking on Jocelyn Edwards. You want to talk about a mid-fight? Aaron, what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, this is and from a betting perspective is one I think we were talking about this earlier. I'm gonna probably be passing. It is a step up in weight for Edwards, right? I think Pascual is a featherweight fight, a chick's featherweight fight. So I know Pascual in her last fight, she did try to get her wrestling going a little bit. And Edwards obviously is not great on the ground. Huge fan of just laying on her back and trying her shitty jiu-jitsu. So it's interesting that Edwards is a favorite, honestly. Pascual is really hittable. So I can see maybe, Edwards can crack from her feet, but I don't think she's going to try to keep it there for the most part. I think she's going to try to get it to the ground, but I can't confidently say that, and that's why I'm not betting it. If I could confidently say that she's going to wrestle, being the bigger chick, I think I would probably take her at her price. And it's the first fight of the night, so if I get a little boozed up, I might probably end up doing so, and might put some money on Pascual. But yeah, if I were to pick someone, I'd take it's Pascual for sure.
Yeah, I kind of feel the opposite. Just like, I mean, honestly, we were talking about it before the show. I didn't even realize Edwards was going up to 45, which is a concern, considerably, considering, as you touched on, she tends to just play guard off her back. But with that being said, like, I don't know. Like, I look at this fight, and it's like, I bet Ramona Pascual at post against Josiane Nunes. That obviously didn't go very well, just because, though, I was fairly familiar with Nunes' game, and I knew she couldn't grapple. She was fairly small for the weight class, and she was fairly hittable. And what you can say all day that Pascual was short notice or whatnot, but the reality is she couldn't hang with Nunes on the feet. She did get her down, but she couldn't keep the fight there, even though Nunes can't grapple at all. Which, makes me think against a better grappler in Edwards, how likely is she to keep it there? Maybe because she plays guard, but I kind of think she might get out scrambled. And on the feet, I think Edwards is a fairly sizable advantage. It's kind of weird. Like, I think Edwards is an okay prospect, to be honest. She's just, like, very, very raw. I mean, but she may start to come into her own here. And, like, going from, Carol Hosa down to this woman, I don't know. I lean Edwards here. I think the line is more or less right here. If I was going to pick a side, it would probably be Edwards. But yeah, I mean, on a fight with a lot of other spots, this is not one that I'm very interested in. So moving on, we got Sylvana Gomez Juarez. She's taking on Na Liang. Kind of a hilarious fight since Juarez is coming off getting armbarred by Vanessa Demopoulos and submitted by Lupe Godinez, fighting a woman who basically only wins fights by first-round submission throughout the entirety of her career. I guess I don't really have a ton of interest in the fight from a betting perspective at the number. Like if it drifted down to Juarez like minus 120, I suppose I'd have some interest. But like we've seen Juarez make horrendous decisions grappling over and over and over against a woman who is going to come out and grapple hard here. I guess my concern from the Liang side is just like, I mean, Liang couldn't control Ariane Carnelosi, who's a pretty horrible grappler. She is basically 5 minutes of gas every fight, and if she doesn't get her opponent out, she tends to get finished. And so it's like how, even at her line here, it's like what 40% implied. Like, can you really say she's 35% to get around one finish here? I don't really think so. I kind of think there might be a tad bit of value on Juarez just because she's far more skilled, and if the fight gets out around one, she's probably going to dominate. But again, Juarez has been sub twice, and getting armbarred by Demopoulos enough to make me not really have any interest pre-fight. Maybe live if she gets out of the first. Aaron, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I think live getting out of the first is a better spot than betting her pre. She can't crack. She landed a bomb on Demopoulos. That was awesome. Fight. That was a bomb, which was great. But yeah, and I think Liang is decent, and she's good in the first round for sure. I think she's got good technique. I watched her last fight, and she was doing the right shit, but she was just not pacing herself at all, and she was going balls to the wall. Couldn't hold down Carnelosi, who's like a fucking brick. She's huge, or at least, she looks like she puts up weight in the gym. So I could see a skinny girl like Liang having trouble keeping her down. But yeah, I don't know. This is another one. You can say, hey, can we trust Liang to pace herself? Probably not. If she could, then maybe she could do it. But you could probably just watch around and figure out how it's going to go, because she'll, you can see, is she pacing herself, or does she fucking blow all her gas out in round one, and maybe catch a better live spot?
It's kind of weird though, right? Because it's like I almost feel like for her style to work, she can't pace herself because it's so reliant on super aggressive grappling.
Mega aggressive. Yeah, she's getting after it. It's fun to watch. I was like, Nali Young, I think is my favorite fighter because I was watching her fight and she was going for it. She wants to win, but
dude, the Carnelosi fight might have been the best fight on that entire pay-per-view, and that was the first fight of the night. It was
awesome. It was amazing. I was like, this is sick. But yeah, gas is expensive these days, so I know she's running low. So I don't know. She may not even make it out of the first. What do you think about that total? It's like it's a round and a half.
Dude, I mean, you almost want to just bet over on principle for a women's total, right? That's 1.5. But it's like, you look at her career and she's just, I don't even think she made it a round and a half for Carnelosi, right? That made it out of the first.
It got close. I think, I forget. She was,
Actually, no, she didn't. Yeah, it got close. But like, she basically, when the energy goes, she's not one of these like resilient fighters who's gonna like try to clinch you up. She just gives up, it's over.
Which is awesome. I respect it. She goes for it. But yeah, not someone I want to trust my money with too much. And it looks like, I just looked, she like took some money today. She's down to like
Liang did?
Yeah, she did. She's like down to like plus 111. I get it. Sylvana's like getting older, but she can still crack. But I still think the best approach is live, if anything. And
I do agree, but it's almost like if she gets to like minus 120 or so, I almost feel like at that point it's just like, can she really be worse than 55% in this spot? Like,
I think round one's gonna be sick. Yeah, we'll see. It's gonna be awesome. It'll be
the whole fight's gonna be sick. But anyway, moving on. This is actually could be low-key a banger. I'm curious your opinion here, Aaron. We got Kyung-Ho Kang, Mr. Perfect, taking on Dana Bakuri Dana. I'm not really sure which way we're supposed to pronounce the name, but what are your thoughts?
Yeah, this is a tough fight for me to break down. I'm Kang, I think, getting a little older, so not as active as someone like Bakuri. I feel like he's fought like 3 times within the last time the Kang's fought or whatever, but Kang can wrestle, and he's a decent grappler, so I think he has a path there. Bakuri did go against, I think it was Alatang, who's like a sick wrestler, and was able to kind of hold his own. But I see some money coming in on Kang. I think Bakuri was like minus 150 earlier in the week. He's like minus 130-ish.
Yeah,
I do think Bakuri is the younger, better striker. So I kind of am leaning towards him, and if it gets in any closer, I might take a little bit of him. But yeah, I see a lot of people playing Kang, so I get it with his grappling abilities. But I think Batgerel is getting better each fight, and I know he did get cracked by Gutierrez last fight, but the way he got knocked out was like some
Pretty random,
right? Yeah, it's random, and it's like you'll get knocked out from that. Usually, he can take a punch. If you don't see the punch coming, you're probably going to get knocked out. So I kind of like Batgerel, but I'm not too confident on like a bet or anything at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, he actually took a bunch of shots from Alatang, who does crack. They were swinging that whole fight. It's kind of weird. I don't really have the best read because on the one hand, like I sort of think Alatang's got better entries than Kang does, but I also think Kang's got a better game on top and a better game built for controlling guys. And so it's like, based on the Alatang fight, you think he can work up here. And I don't think Kang's a bad striker at all. His punches are a little straighter, and he should be able to have like moderate degrees of success on the feet. I guess my issue is it's just like Batgerel throws so much harder, and he's going to throw more strikes. And so it's like you have to favor him standing. You have to think he has more finishing upside in this spot. But like the big question is, he looked okay grappling against Alatang, but again, I think Kang's better on top. What does he look like on bottom if Kang gets on top of him? And I don't really know. And the thing is, the reason I'm not taking a poke at Kang is it's like if he can get up, then he's going to cover his price, So
no, for sure.
And so it's like, do I really want to just like bet on that one? Even though I've seen him get up, I want to bet that he can't get up here. Not really. So my lean is Batgerel. I kind of think he's probably the side, but I'm not really interested in betting this. There are better grapplers to bet against strikers on this card. And we're going to get to one right now. We got Jake Matthews taking on Andre Fielo. I bet Matthews. He's one of my biggest bets on the card. I have him at like plus 135. Personally, like I don't make him a big favorite or anything like that, but I kind of think you have to line him a favorite here. He's fought largely better competition. Fielo is a good boxer who hits very hard, but when you've watched Fielo throughout his career, if guys don't just stand in front of him and swing in the pocket, he doesn't really have many answers. Even like his best wins probably James Vick, and if you watch that fight, until he clipped Vick, he was basically just getting owned for 7 minutes of the fight. One of my worst bets ever was betting Vick like minus 250 in that fight.
Oh, any bet on Vick is the worst bet.
It is. But I don't really think much has changed. Like even looking at the Baeza fight, when Baeza didn't engage him in the pocket, he was winning the fight fairly easily. It was once he broke his nose and just started swinging down with him, he got knocked out. And Matthews, like one of the things he's reliable to do is not swing in the pocket. Really, he's going to stay on the outside, dart in, dart out, try to really just not engage too hard. And I kind of think that kind of approach here is probably enough that like at worst, it's going to be a close fight standing. On top of which, Fielo, I think, is the guy that everybody gives the credit for having the knockout power in this fight. But Matthews has dropped a bunch of guys in his career. It's not like he's a soft hitter. He hurt Li Jingliang pretty badly a couple of times in that fight. And then, the other thing is the grappling should favor Matthews fairly significantly here. I don't think he's the best wrestler ever, but that kind of style of reactive takedowns should work fairly well with a guy like Fielo who just kind of wants to pressure forward. And when we have seen Fielo on his back, he's pretty bad there. On top of which he tends to gas out when he grapples. And it's like usually Matthews' gas tank is a big concern, but in this case, he might actually have the better gas tank here. And so it's like I'm getting a guy who is not going to play to his opponent's strengths. He's going to make him have to follow him and move. He's got a big wrestling advantage. He has an experience advantage. He can probably crack at a similar level. Like I have to favor Matthews here. I think he should be like 55% or so. I still think there's value at the line where it is. What do you think, Aaron?
Sorry. Yeah, 100%. I think this is an easy bet to make. Matthews at dogs. I'm surprised. I mean, I can see why he's a dog because of, whenever someone's coming off a few impressive, like highlight real knockouts, they're going to be favored. And that's like some of the best spots to take advantage of. And I think we got a good spot here because, yeah, like you said, Matthews can grind. Standing, it might be a little bit of concern, but hopefully his dad yells at him and tells him to down, which he probably will. And they'll be in Singapore. So another thing that's kind of a thing I like to think about with them being in Singapore, fighting at like 4 a.m. Like I think Fielo trains in Florida, right? So like that's a fucking far flight, and that's something I like to think about for most of these fights is try to see how far these guys have had to travel. Because Singapore, I've been there before. That fucker was it was like an 18-hour flight, and I wasn't the same for like a week. So I don't know when these guys have gotten there and shit, but the jet lag hits you pretty hard. And when they're fighting that early, something to think about. Because I think Matthews is coming from Australia, which is quite a bit easier of a travel to Singapore. So I think that's something.
To be honest, that's not a bad angle. Like I don't know that we think about it enough with MMA. It's like you look at other sports where home and road get capped so vividly. Yeah. Like football teams from the West Coast playing 1 p.m. games on the East Coast traditionally play horribly.
It was a good angle, even when they were doing Fight Island. If you looked at the results,
Americans got killed.
They were getting smoked, and the people coming from Brazil were getting smoked because they're fucking traveling real far, going up against guys who just got like 3-hour flights from Russia and Australia.
Oh, in fairness, they're going up against Russians, right?
Yeah, a little bit of combination bias, but 100%. I think it's something you have to look at because exactly what you said. Like it's a little different because they have more time to adjust or react, but.
It's also like I feel like people are down on Matthews because he's been so average. Like people act as if Matthews is really bad, but I think it's more because he was a big prospect who ended up just being average. Yeah, he got great.
And he he plateaued and he's never taken a little step up. He just chill on that plateau.
Dude, he's still young, man. He's like 28, you know, which is crazy.
Yeah. I mean, dude, I think if he changed camps, maybe he did a camp somewhere else. I don't know if he has or not. I know I always hear his dad freaking out in his corner. That can't be a good thing. So
he only fights on like these foreign cards. It's very he doesn't really seem to have a burning desire to be. It was a while ago. Oh no, he fought Sean Brady. That's who it was.
He had Jermel Wells, yeah.
Or was it? He was supposed to fight Wells. He did not fight Wells.
Oh yeah, he did. That's right.
But anyway, moving on. We have the GOAT Mahashate coming back off a Contender Series epic war. He's taking on Steve Garcia. What do you think here, Aaron?
Oh man, yeah. I was watching that Mahashate fight earlier today. It's interesting to watch.
Great fight.
It's an awesome fight, and that dude that he was fighting was a fucking kamikaze coming after him. So I kind of dug how he kind of stayed calm in the pocket. He did get tagged quite a bit. He ate a lot of bombs. These Chinese fighters, I don't know where they get their chins from. They definitely don't get them from Alibaba or anything like that. They get them from some premium fucking website, and it's pretty sick. But yeah, I mean, I'm surprised. It looks like Steve Garcia is taking more money. Or he opened up at -300. He's 175 now. It's kind of bopping around, but yeah, I kind of like Mahashate here at that dog price. Or am I fucking saying his name right? Steve Garcia hasn't been all that impressive to me, and a guy that getting knocked down by Charlie Ontiveros is tough to it's tough to lay -170, -180 on him. I understand he has like some wrestling going, and Machate's wrestling is a little bit of a question mark there, so maybe he gets grinded out. But he's a big dude. He's going to be tough to hold down, I think. Those Chinese fighters aren't really great at wrestling, but he's dangerous, and he throws some spinning shit. And you saw that Ontiveros had given him some trouble with that. He almost knocked him out twice with that spinning shit. So maybe that's kryptonite. Yeah, and he got stronger and better as the fight went on. Like he started slow, ate a lot of bombs, and he started turning the fucking fight up. I know it's a Contender Series fight, but it was still a banger fight. So
it was one of the best we've ever had.
I think. Yeah, I'm thinking about poking on him for a little bit. So nice spot, I think.
Well, I'm on the other side, actually. I actually bet. It's not like the most passionate take I've ever had, but I bet Garcia at around -150. Yeah, I mean, you touched on a lot of it, but like, I actually don't mind. I don't want to say I think he's a good prospect like Mahashate. Obviously, he has no defense at all, but he hits hard and he seems stupidly durable. But
dude.
You know, the footage we have of him on his back is really ugly. And, you know, like you touched on, you know, we've seen a lot of guys now come over from the China PI, and almost none of them can grapple. It's almost uncanny, like how, and the ones who can, like Zhu Rong had like 10 submissions, like regionally, and then got out grappled by Kazula Vargas, who cannot grapple, you know? And so it's like, I'm not making it like a China versus America thing, but it's like all of these Chinese fighters, until I see them actually show some competency in that department, especially in the case of like Mahjate, where I've seen him definitively show incompetency as a grappler. You know, it's just the only question is, can Garcia grapple? And the answer is yeah, he's actually a decent grappler. Like I wouldn't say
he wrestled right at like some community college in New Mexico.
He's an okay wrestler, and he's got okay jiu-jitsu, but the bigger thing for me is he goes for it. You know, he's not like, he pretty much wrestles almost every fight he's in, so he's not a guy that I really have to worry about. Like, oh, is he not going to wrestle? Like, no, he's going to attempt takedowns here, and I really think like if he gets on top, you can get him down. Now, I will say you are right. The Ontiveros fight is scary, and Garcia does tend to come out hot as fuck. You know, and he's just as defensively open as Mahjate is, and could probably get like, I feel like it's really weird. Either he's going to get knocked out in 30 seconds and everybody's going to be like, oh, how could you bet Steve Garcia at juice? Or he won't, and he'll get on top of him, and it's going to be like, oh, Steve Garcia should have been minus 1,000 here, you know? Like
100%. That's what it's going to look like. Yeah, I looked at it looks like they're pretty booked to the under 2.5 is minus 170. So they know what's going on here. Yeah.
But like I think Garcia is a reasonable grappler, and I just really don't think Mahjate is, you know?
Yeah, that's 100%. I could see that. I just like, as a dog, I don't have too much trouble taking a shot on him. But yeah, I can see it too. And that travel comes into play too. So I added that into my handicapping. So I was like, hey, Steve Garcia, I don't know how far the flight is from New Mexico, but it's far as fuck. And that's
so are you telling me China's gonna run this card?
They might. They don't. I actually haven't looked up how far that flight is. Is it far? It can't be that much.
It's got to be far. No. Actually, no. Singapore, not that far.
It's got to be close.
Definitely further for Steve Garcia. Definitely further for Steve Garcia.
He's going to be racking up the freaking flyer miles. So
for sure. Yeah. Moving on, though, we got Suwoo Choi taking on Joshua Kulabau. We got Australia against Korea, both of them with a reasonably short flight here. I don't have a strong opinion on this fight. I probably have the least strong opinion I have of any fight on this entire card. Kulabau seems like a UFC gatekeeper. Like, pretty much if you beat him, you belong. If you can't, you don't. You know, he's an okay striker. He's a below average grappler who has good cardio, against Choi, who is low volume and gives away minutes constantly, but is a pretty good boxer and can crack. And so it's like, I think Choi is just massively more skilled here. I know Choi's had some issues grappling in the past, but like, the guys who have had big grappling success against Choi are just so much better than Kulabau is. Like, unless Choi, like, the only reason I'm not laying this price is just because Choi does have a penchant for giving away minutes on the feet. But to be honest, even with that said, I've honestly thought about playing Choi here. Like, I do think that, you know, in terms of who is more likely to finish it, it's like 2 to 3 times as likely that Choi is. And even on minutes, I don't think Kulabau is going to have an easy time getting volume off. And I expect, you know, the shots Choi lands are going to be a lot harder. So I think he should be a sizable favorite. No issue with the line. What do you think, Aaron?
Yeah, I was trying to get to Kulabau a little bit. I was watching him. I mean, his first fight in the UFC was against Jalen Turner. So he didn't get finished by him. He kind of finished himself. He tripped over his foot or some shit. I don't know if you remember that, but it wasn't a good look. But he didn't get finished, which is good. Jalen Turner's like a pretty dangerous striker, I'd say. And a
huge lightweight.
And then he had that fight against fucking Jourdain and knocked him down. So he's got some power in his hands, and he's like decent. He's just a little smaller. And yeah, I'd agree. I think Seungwoo Choi should be favored here. I don't know if he should be favored that wide, but he looked really good against who did he just fight? Fucking
Arosa?
No, against fucking
Caceres.
Yeah. He went against Caceres, and then he knocked Caceres down. So it's a little bit of a dangerous fight. I wish they showed a little less durability, because then I'd probably take a little crack at the under. But
I don't think it's the worst look, to be honest.
I mean, I think this is going to be a war. Kulabao always comes to fight, and Sung Woo Choi, same thing. And I don't think there's going to be a lot of grappling. So it's plus money at the moment. And then if you want to do the fight doesn't go, it's minus 120. So that's not terrible. I'd agree. I think that might be something I look a little closer at. Because Sung Woo Choi, he does throw some heat. He did knock down Caceres a few times. And like I said, Kulabao knocked down fucking Jourdain, who's a banger too. So I think Kulabao's gonna bring the fight to Sung Woo Choi, and I don't think Sung Woo Choi is gonna back up. So it's gonna be a lot of banging. So we'll see.
My issue with Kulabao is it's just like I feel like he isn't unskilled. I just don't think he's much of an athlete, you know?
No, he's not.
He's like me if I lost 40 pounds.
Yeah.
You know? He just doesn't, he's not a lot of burst, you know?
He's definitely skilled. Yeah, that's the best way to put it. He's definitely skilled because even against Turner, like he had a lot of length on him, but he still got in there and he landed some punches, which is honestly impressive. So you can tell he like goes against longer dudes in fucking practice. And
he does, but like Choi throws hammers, man.
Yeah, he throws bombs.
He does.
Yeah, he does some Top Gun shit and he throws bombs. He's dope. So actually, the under might be a good look.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
Might have talked myself into that.
Moving on, we got Brendan Allen taking on another guy with a short flight, Jacob Malkoun. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, that's right, short flight guy. I looked at that. What's it? Malkoun by decision, 8-1. Mm-hmm. It looked pretty good. I saw that floating around. I mean, I kind of like that. But the only thing is, I think Brendan Allen is just better than Malkoun is. This is another guy who just isn't much of an athlete. So he can grind it out and he can like bring the pressure on you. But I think this is the not the right dude to do it to. I think he's going to have a substantially harder time executing the same game plan that he did against the past two dudes than he would against Brendan Allen. So I do think, if he can draw it out, do a lot of cage pushing and maybe get a takedown, his top pressure is all right. But Brendan Allen, I think, is a dude that will probably be able to overcome that better than the last two dudes he's been able to do it against. So I definitely lean Brendan Allen here. But if Malkoun gets a victory, it's probably going to be by like a boring ass fucking grindy decision. So 8-1's not terrible.
Yeah. I'm always down to fade Brendan Allen when he fights. Like I am very, very anti Brendan Allen. I think the guy has been the weirdest hype train ever. And I really, really going into tape wanted to be on the Jacob Malkoun side here. But just kind of like what you said, it's the same thing we just talked about with the Kulabao fight. You know, Jacob Malkoun grinded out Razak Al-Hassan, who can't grapple, and then lost the first round to a debutant in AJ Dobson. Looked pretty bad losing it, and then managed to kind of grind him out when he slowed down and win that fight. And it's just like, I look at it and I mean, I don't think Brendan Allen's a very good defensive wrestler. I do think Malkoun can probably get takedowns, but it's like, I mean, Allen's a black belt. He's a bigger guy. He's a much better athlete. He is much more like Allen's the probably best thing I can say about him is Allen is a really strong athlete, you know. And he's an okay scrambler, you know, which against like a guy who I rated as a really good grappler, I wouldn't really care about Allen scrambling but in this fight, I think it's more than enough. You know, this is a guy who was able to scramble fine with like Fluffy Hernandez, who's a much better grappler than Jacob Malkoun is. So I look at it and it's just like, I guess the Malkoun best path to victory, like you said, is like kind of get inside, grind it out, wear on him, and, land a bunch of takedowns. And I do, Malkoun's averaging like 16 takedowns a fight, which I do appreciate. Like that's a very good, that's a very good process. If you can actually get your takedowns, like you're going to win a lot of fights attempting takedowns at that clip. But I don't know, like taking down Razak Al-Hassan and grinding out AJ Dobson doesn't really seem particularly meaningful in this context. And I just kind of think early on, first of all, I think it's going to be tough for him to close distance. We saw that with Dobson where he just got lit up at range. And the other thing is, it's like if Allen gets on top of him, he might just get mauled, if he like loses his scramble. And so it's like I have a guy in Allen with 20 fights who's fought pretty good competition against Malkoun, who's the best thing on his resume was wrestling Razak Al-Hassan, and it's like
he gasses.
right.
He's like basically gave up. So
has never defended a double leg in his life.
Right,
you know?
exactly. He doesn't know what the fuck that is.
So I agree. I think because if Malkoun's gonna win, it's probably a grimy decision. Plus 800 does seem a little out there. I actually kind of think. I think the conventional wisdom is Allen finish, but I actually kind of think over a bit. It's his plus money, and Malkoun's not going to bite the mouthpiece with him and swing in the pocket. No. He's either going to stay all the way out or try to be in and take him down.
That's the thing that you can count on Malkoun is he knows like he's got to be on a fucking leg or he's got to be out of the pocket because he knows like I don't think he has the best chin either. So
and allegedly he's a jiu-jitsu guy, right? They say he's Robert Whittaker's jiu-jitsu coach. So
I guess we've never really seen him on his back, have we? I don't know.
I can tell you I'm not. He doesn't really ever put hooks in or show jiu-jitsu offensively.
He was just kind of riding fucking wrist control against Dobson, and for some reason Dobson couldn't get up. No. So maybe he just like feels mega heavy on top. I don't know. Maybe he just got that Khabib strike, maybe. But I think Brendan Allen, he's a pretty big dude. I think he'd be able to I think he's gonna come in ready for this fight. He knows what's coming.
If Brendan Allen doesn't take care of business here, they should walk him to the moon. Like honestly. Like they get him out of the UFC. I just, as much as I'm always down to bet a dog and a guy who attempts this many takedowns, it's just like you watch it. Like the guy's got 7 fights and 4 of them are against like the worst of the worst Aussie regionals. You know. So I'm with you. Maybe over. Maybe Malkoun decision, but I don't really feel passionately about it. Now, speaking of guys who made their bread fighting on shitty Aussie regionals. We have Jack Della Maddalena fighting Ramazan Emeev. I really like Emeev here. I have a bet on him. And the funny thing is that the argument I keep hearing, and honestly, let me preface all of this by saying I don't think Maddalena is a bad prospect. The guy can obviously box. He throws a ton of volume, and that's been the argument I've heard all week for why he wins this fight. Is Emeev is low volume and Maddalena is very, very high volume. But like. First of all, if you contextualize it in the context of this fight, nobody who's ever fought Emeev has landed more than 50 strikes in a fight against him. Why? Because Emeev doesn't engage. He's basically stay on the outside and pot shots so he can hit a takedown. Like if you try to pressure him, he will shoot or force the fight into the clinch. The guy does a remarkable job at minimizing exchanges in fights. And that's the only thing I'll ever say about Ramazan Emeev that's remarkable because I don't really think he's like that good. But the truth is he doesn't really get into firefights. It's very like Joanna is a fairly high volume guy when he's at distance, and he couldn't really get much volume off. And the other thing is with this fight is it's like, Della's looked, pretty good in his last 2 fights, but it's like he fought Angelusa on contenders who, if we're being honest, like people bet Angelusa against Munir Lazez because he grappled Della Maddalena, and then he couldn't sniff a takedown against Munir Lazez, who is a very mid grappler, Like Angelusa is not a good grappler, and he had pretty significant success in that fight. And then he fought Pete Rodriguez, who was some dude training like at the border of Mexico, who's 4-0, and he just comes out there, and Rodriguez lands a ton, and then just gassed out 2 minutes in and got finished. And so then you go back and say, well, who did he fight regionally? Nobody, really. A bunch of guys on the first regionals who are fairly unimpressive. And, all you see in his fights is very consistent. He lost a bunch of first rounds regionally where a lot of these guys who aren't very good grapplers were fairly consistently taking him down regionally. He was able to work up in a lot of those spots, but like his main method for working up is trying to get an armbar or a triangle and reversing position like that, which is fine when you're fighting guys who can't grapple regionally, but like a blue belt throwing up triangles and arm bars against, Ramazan Emeev is something completely different. And like, that's the thing. It's like, I think Emeev of like the whole Russian syndicate in the UFC or of the Russian guys who are like good wrestlers is near the bottom of the totem pole, but he does have good entries. He will get takedowns. He attempts 8 to 9 takedowns a fight, for 15 minutes. And one thing we've seen with Della is literally every guy who attempts takedown gets in on his hips. Lusa got in on his hips every time he shot in that fight. Ameev is going to get United tips and get takedowns, and I just don't really like what I see from Della Maddalena on bottom. As I mentioned, the stuff with the arm bars and the triangles, but he basically trying to get an arm bar and isolate an arm, once put himself into an arm triangle and almost got finished, and then he almost did the exact same thing again later in the fight, and Lucer just couldn't pass the guard.
Yeah.
And it's like, if he does that here, like, I know Ameev is not famous for his control, but it's like, you see this week in and week out, it's like, oh, guy's not a great control grappler. Oh, wait, they've been fighting UFC grapplers, you know? It's like, oh, suddenly you give them a regional guy and they go and they maul them. Like, I remember a couple years ago, Gaetano Perello was fighting Ricky Simone, and it's like, everyone's like, oh, Simone doesn't control anybody. It's like, oh, wait, you're telling me when he fights some Italian who can't grapple, the college wrestler can actually hold him down and dominate him?
That was a DraftKings dream, I think.
Yeah. And so it's like, I'm not saying that Ameev necessarily will dominate the fight, but I think on the feet, it's going to be very, very difficult for Della to get off big volume here. And I feel very comfortable projecting Ameev to land like 3 to 4 takedowns this fight. And so it's like, I guess more or less, I think it's going to be a fairly close fight. But if one of these guys was to dominate the fight for 15 minutes, I think it's pretty clearly Ameev. Like, if Ameev comes out here and holds him down for 9 minutes, I will not be very surprised. Whereas I would be very surprised if Jack Della Maddalena lands 100 strikes against Ameev and sprawls and brawls for 15 minutes, you know?
Oh,
so
no,
that's my point. And so it's like Ameev plus 125, plus 135. I got to do it. Like, what do you think?
I agree. No, I saw you hinting at betting this on Twitter a little bit. But yeah, no, I agree. I'm surprised it moved so much to it's minus 150. It opened as JDM as a dog, right?
Yeah.
It opened
like plus 130, I think.
Yeah, so that's a lot. That's a huge movement. I'm not sure where that momentum's coming from, but you're right. The strength of schedule is pathetic. When you compare it, especially to Ameev, who's been in the UFC for a while and he can wrestle. He's a much more complete MMA fighter. Yeah, I think JDM has the striking advantage clearly, but you see these guys with striking advantages, their striking advantages disappear, or it just becomes a little less when they have to worry about getting taken down. So that's a pretty easy bet, I think, to make as Ameev at plus money. Not to say that JDM can't knock this guy out. Maybe he can, because he does have like really good boxing and he likes to mix up the targets, which I think also leads to a lot of knockouts. But if Ameev kind of just presents the takedown, I think that's going to make him second guess a lot of what he's second guessing. And yeah, the Australian regional scene is like the worst regional scene there is. I think it's pretty bad.
That's Alaska, maybe.
Yeah. So so I think Ameev's a good bet here.
It's kind of weird too, because it's like I don't even hate Jack, you know what I mean?
No,
like
I don't fun fighter.
But this reminds me a bit of like Molina and Zalgas last week, where like the entire argument around Molina was like Molina throws a ton of volume and Zalgas doesn't. But it's like, oh wait, Zalgas suppresses volume really well, and then you had a close fight, and you have a similar dynamic. The difference between these two fights is Zalgas isn't a very good wrestler, whereas Ameev is at least a very solid wrestler, you know?
Oh, he's good. Yeah. He does have little issues with control, but like you said, it's like a basically Australian regional fighter. So we'll see. I don't think he has very good training partners in the wrestling department. So this is going to be a tough one for him. And yeah, I mean, he just becomes less and less dangerous the more times he gets taken down.
Yeah.
And I think you're right with that projection on Ameev. He should have like 3 or 4 pretty easily. So at a plus money, I think that's an easy bet.
Yeah, agreed. Moving on, we got a fun one here. We have a guy who really, really let me and my wallet down big last fight. Although it was really the judges that let me down. It's Rogerio Bontorin.
Oh, yeah.
He's taking Manel up. Aaron, what do you think here?
Dude, I'm a little bit of a fanboy for Cop. I love this guy. But he seems to be getting progressively better in each and one of his fights. He kind of came out, I don't know if he was nervous, but his first few fights, he was just super hesitant, which was kind of disappointing because I bet a lot of money on him on both of those fights that he lost. So, watching that was a little discouraging. But what I really like about him is he's like, his movement on the feet is very tricky. So he's able to land all these big shots because of his movement. Like that knee he landed was because of how he moves on the feet. So Bontarin's a little more stationary. I think, there's a path for him. And we haven't seen much of Kopp on his back, so we'll see on that one. But yeah, I think Kopp is a pretty good fighter. I think he's definitely one of the better fighters in his weight class. Tricky, dangerous, but yeah, it's a little bit of a mystery how he looks on his back. And Bondarin obviously is a guy who can get you there, but he's a little too stationary for my liking. And his control when he is on top, he doesn't land a lot of damage. So I know we've seen that recently where the guy just taking people down and not landing a lot of damage will lose rounds to people who, at the end of the round will strike hard. And I think Kopp's capable of landing a few hard strikes, or at least more hard than Bontarin. But yeah, I can't hate on people who take a shot on Bontarin, but I'm a Kopp guy, so I might be a little biased.
Yeah, I don't mind Manel as a prospect. It's funny because I faded him in both of his first 2 fights entering the UFC. And then I bet him against Ode. But, I faded him in those fights not because I thought he was going to just give the fights away standing. I knew he had some low volume tendencies, but I thought, I thought Pantoja was going to come out and dive on legs, not try to body kick him for 15 minutes, and then, I thought coming into the UFC, he had some serious grappling issues. And that was kind of the common narrative. If you weren't super pro Kopp, was that, look, the guy got absolutely mauled by Oka Sasaki regionally.
Right.
You saw it happen a couple times. Nicolau, who's, a good grappler if he can get on top of you, but fairly weak and not the best wrestler, was able to have some success there. But for some reason, the narrative on Kopp's grappling has gone to, oh, he should, easily be able to stuff takedowns here. He shouldn't have much trouble. And I'm I think it's kind of alarming to me, because it's I baited him because I thought he had issues grappling. Now, don't get me wrong. He is young, to your point, and he's a great athlete. And so it's one of those things where he could make huge improvements and level up that part of his game. But I really haven't seen almost enough to think that issue is fixed. And unlike someone like Nicolau, who's weak and doesn't have a ton of burst in the wrestling, Bontarin, at least while he's fresh, is very strong and has a lot of burst, cutting angles, very good at taking the back. And so I actually think there is some scope for Bontarin to, have significant grappling success here. And even standing, if Kopp, it's funny because when Zhumagulov took the fight to him, you saw when guys take it to him, he'll let his fucking hands go.
Yeah.
But if people try to stare him down, he's kind of okay with just having very, very 100%. Thin margin fights. Yeah. And just picking his shots. And if I could see it being fairly close on the feet where, a takedown steals around, or a situation similar to the France fight where he gets taken down once or twice and just gets his back taken, and that's a round or finished. And so I do favor Kopp just because the athleticism gap is significant here. Yeah. And Bontarin is, I don't think he's fragile, but I think he's very, very easy to hit. And a guy with Kopp's power and explosion, that's a dangerous combo. But I am taking a small poke at Bontarin here just because I still haven't had that question about Kopp's grappling answered. I still think most of the data points to him not being a great grappler. And I'm getting a black belt who is very strong, who has a very good control game, who is going to come out here and attempt takedowns. So I have a small play on Bontarin.
Cheap price too to find out. So
yeah, plus 200. So it's and it's one of those things, right, where it's if I'm wrong, the worst case scenario is he gets knocked out, but he could also lose a fight that's close where he covers his price, right? Whereas, if I'm right, he might look like a hindsight favorite. So.
Right. 100%. Yeah, there's a lot of spots like that where if these guys can get their wrestling going, then they'll look a lot better than what they're priced at right now. So trying to figure that out is the money maker.
Yeah. Moving on, we have a rematch of probably the best fight in women's MMA history, if we're being honest. We got Zhang Weili taking on Joanna Jonjayczyk, and I had a massive play on Joanna the first time this was booked. That was Max Cope after that fight ended. And so, unsurprisingly, at plus 150, I'm going back to the well here. I'm not going back big again because I do think the 5-round dynamic was much more favorable to Joanna than the 3-round dynamic is. But ultimately, I feel the same way about this fight that I did about the first. The bottom line is if they go 15 minutes, it's going to be a very close fight. That's probably a coin flip on the cards. But I think the scope for Joanna winning a dominant decision is a lot higher. Like, if you rewatch that first fight, Joanna had her biggest issues came swinging in the pocket with Zhang. And you saw her happily bite the mouthpiece and do it. And Zhang just hits a lot harder. But the few times she'd stand back at kicking range and play the outside game or counter, she had huge success. The couple times she went in the clinch, she completely dominated her there in the clinch in that fight. And something that we learned last fight with Zhang with Rose, and now don't get me wrong, guys, I'm not saying I expect Joanna to come out here and cheat double legs. I don't. I wish that was the game plan. I really, really wish that was the game plan. We talked about Chinese fighters, not being able to get up. Like, we saw it. Dude, like, I was there for that fight. I was in, like, shock watching Zhang, Rose Namajunas top controller for 10 minutes in that fight. But I think the path, if she wants it, is there. I don't think she's going to go for it because she never does. But it's just like, if JJ fights smart and doesn't just engage in a pocket brawl, I think she can pretty easily outpoint her on the outside or clinch her up and win there. Whereas, yeah, Zhang has more finishing upside, and if they do brawl again, you have to kind of edge Zhang on power. But ultimately, it's the worst case scenario if it goes 15 is it's a very close fight. So I'm pretty happy to take the shot at JJ here. We've seen the fight once. I still think JJ as a technician is superior. What do you think, Aaron?
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree with that. I think it's going to be mad close like it was the last time. I don't see any reason to think otherwise. Yeah, and then you're going to get plus 150 on almost like a coin flip. I looked at the MMA decisions, like the scorecards for last time. I don't think there was one unanimous round between the three.
JJ won every round on at least one card.
Right, yeah. So it was like, all right, there's only 3 rounds here. It's going to be close. Both of them are going to bring the fight. I don't know. Do you think any of them will try to grapple? Probably not.
I think Zhang. Zhang seems to like to try, right? But
yeah,
when she did it the first time, she kept ending up in the clinch and just eating a ton of knees. And
it's not easy to take down Joanna either. Like, she's the
best defensive grappler in women's history by like a lot.
She's like the Aldo of fucking.
Yes, exactly. That's a great comp.
Yeah,
I don't know. I mean, she tried to grapple Rose, which was smart, but
yeah, I know. I don't know who is she still training at Fight Ready? She is, right?
I would hope so. They
come in with good game plans, so maybe
they do.
Maybe they're thinking of implementing that, but that's still a guess, and I still think it's going to be a fucking very close striking.
I cannot. If Joanna comes out here and gets held down by Zhang, I'll eat a hat on live stream. I'm not even. It's not happening. It is not. She's faced way better grapplers than Zhang, who could not hold her down. I do not think she's getting held down here.
Yeah, that was what I think. So yeah, I think this is. I mean, this is another spot where you can just take a poke on Joanna and feel good on a 50% outcome. So
yeah. It's really, I really hope she wins because I love Joanna.
Me too, dude. Yeah, the Polish fighters are back. The Polish chick fighters are back. She got the Carolina momentum from last week, so maybe that'll flow through to Singapore.
It's true, and like Joanna was like a fun champion. Like, she talked shit. She was super cocky. Instead, you had like emo Rose for like the last year and a half. Zhang, who's like oatmeal, and Andrade, Andrade was cool, but like. No one's been as fun as champion as Joanna was.
100%. I'm a Joanna fan, so I don't know if I'm biased here, but I mean, like I said, and you said this as well, like the fight was fucking close as hell last time. So
you know what bothers me about that fight is it's like I don't think it was a robbery at all, but like when I was rewatching it the other night, I thought Joanna round 4 was like one of the clearest rounds of the fight, and 2 judges scored it for Zhang, and if only one scores it for her. She wins the fight.
Yeah, you just have to expect it, especially with how close this shit is going to be. Like or at least I think, with no grappling, stand-up war, it's like it's going to be a pretty close fight, and these judges are just going to fucking guess at the end of
this. This is a pretty good comment, to be honest.
Right? Yeah. No, that's true. I wonder, are they flying in people? Is Sal making the trip? Because I think we got.
I hope not.
Yeah, dude. I remember he was on some fucking Bellator card in Italy one. I forget. It was like a couple weeks ago. I was like, this guy is everywhere at fucking once. I thought
they do fly people in for sure. Like,
I was actually at the last. Fun fact: I was actually at the last UFC Singapore. I don't know if you can see that.
That is sick. Was that Edwards and Cerrone?
Yeah, that's the one I went to. Bro, I went there because I was training at Tiger over a summer, and then I had just jumped over to Singapore because it's like a $20 fight.
That's sick.
And then it was like half empty. So like I had like seats up top because I was like fucking I didn't have a job at that point. I was like poor. So I got like the cheapest seat, but like everyone got to move up because it was only half full. And I think it was only on like Fight Pass or some shit. So
dude, yeah.
It was
those
dope.
are the old Singapore cards.
But beers were like fucking $30. That was the only thing that was brutal about Singapore.
I have heard it's crazy expensive. I lobbied my wife really hard to let me go to this event. And
dude, I wouldn't have minded going back to this one. This one probably would have been pretty sick.
She's like, you're not going to Singapore by yourself.
Dude, I was there by myself, just like it was actually a fucking experience, dude.
I believe it, man. Dude, honestly, Crazy Rich Asians just gets me like so excited about the prospect of visiting Singapore.
That's a good that's a good ad for Singapore. It's not as dope as that when you go there, but I'm sure you can.
Anyway, moving on. We got the co-main event. Valentina Shevchenko looking to continue to keep this division boring and defend her title once again. She's taking on Taila Santos. Valentina's roughly around -700 right now. Let's see what the actual price is. -600. Taila plus 400. Aaron, what are your thoughts? Do you think Taila's got the goods to win this fight?
No, dude, I don't. I mean, yeah, I didn't even really look all that close into this. Like I said, once I saw that she lost to Mara, whatever her name is, did, I just thought, I was like, all right, I don't think I'm even gonna look at this. But yeah, I mean, I would be much more surprised if Valentina lost than I was when Amanda lost to Panay. Yeah. I mean, I think she should be just as wide as a favorite. Valentina's just like, yeah, like I was saying earlier, it's like when you're fighting in this weight class and you go from like the number one contender 2 spot going up to the championship spot, like that leap is bigger than any other division. Like usually you incrementally fight your way up and it gets harder and harder and harder just a little bit. But then once you have to fight Valentina, it gets way fucking harder. And then people are just kind of like shocked, I think, when they fight her. So she's, I mean, just really skilled and was probably built in a lab and is probably some sort of Russian spy. So we'll see. Well, I think she's going to be well prepared for this. And it looks like whenever anyone like talks shit, she gets like, she takes it personally. And I think I saw Talia talking some shit. So I think she's going to, I don't know if I want to take this. I was thinking about taking her inside the distance. What's the price on that? Is it something ridiculous? It's not bad, dude. I mean, it's funny. Close. So I know some people think it might go over, but like I said, Valentina, I think, is the type of chick who will turn it up when she needs to, or when someone's talking shit to her. So I'll monitor the trash talk and see if she takes it any more personally, because I think she's got her covered pretty much everywhere.
Yeah, it's funny because, like, again, I was almost positive I was going to bet Taila at plus 500.
Yeah.
And, you know, just because I remembered watching the Maia fight, and, you know, even before the Maia fight, going back earlier in Shev's career, you know, she's shown in the past some concerning things off her back. In particular, you know, in the Pena fight is the big red flag. But obviously in the Maia fight as well, you know, got held down for a round, lost a round.
Right.
And in my head, I was like, you know, I think Santos is strong. She's a physical freak. She's got a good control game. She might be able to get her down and just control her here. This is an auto bet. And then it's like you jump into the tape and it's just like Santos getting like mauled physically by Mara Borella. It's just, you can say like maybe it was UFC jitters, you know, but it's like I can't watch that and then be like, oh yeah, you know, she's going to go in there and grapple Shevchenko. And especially when I just bet Jessica Andrade against her because I'm like, Jessica Andrade probably stronger than Jessica Maia. She can get takedowns here. And instead, she just absolutely mollywopped her. And I feel fairly strong that Jessica Andrade is stronger than Mara Borella is. And we just saw Valentina just completely muscle her. I don't really think, you know, I get where the Santos love is coming from. You know, she out-grappled Roxy fairly solidly and Jillian Robertson. But, like, you're talking about a different level of strength, physicality, and athleticism with Val. And it's like, look, if it happens, will I be the most shocked ever? I guess not, but kind of. I kind of will be. Yeah.
I would honestly – I mean, I look at Talia as, like, run up to this title. It's like I guess there's not many people you.
No, it's horrible, man.
It's awful. Like she hasn't fought anyone. So,
dude,
like I said, this step up is like she's going from kindergarten to fucking 10th grade.
They basically gave her the weakest slate of ranked fighters they could. Molly McCann, Jillian Robertson, Roxy, and Joanne Wood. Like that is
and Woods didn't Woods been getting tossed around?
Wood's old as fuck, man. I don't even mind Wood, and I didn't mind how Santos looked in that fight, but I mean, Shevchenko's on another level as a striker. I actually think if Santos was going to win, she's a freak. She might be on roids. Maybe she could crack her,
Yeah, maybe, but that's the thing.
I'm with you. I think Shevchenko largely has her covered. If Santos comes out here and out-grapples her and holds her down, okay. But and then at that point, I'll be like, yeah, the Marbarella thing, that was just a happenstance, But I don't know. I kind of think Shevchenko's got her pretty.
Yeah, I hope we should start talking more shit so I can bet this ITD. So I think I think it's a decent angle. She seems to be pretty mad, but yeah, I mean, it's a huge step up.
You really think Shevchenko finishes her? I feel like Santos is one of these like roided up Brazilians who's like super durable.
Yeah, I think she could if she wanted to. Like, would it surprise you if she got like a rear naked choke on Santos? She's a decent
little bit.
Too. I guess rear naked chokes are the hardest thing to get these days once you get that fucking body triangle.
Yeah, because like everybody knows how to
risk control.
It's like 2-on-2 now in the modern MMA. It's like not for most grapplers.
It's crazy that it took people this long to figure it out, though.
It's like in regular jiu-jitsu meta, no one's got jumped in a 2-on-2 in like 10 years or 20 years.
Okay.
But yes, Basil, I am going to be at UFC Long Island. But yeah, so I don't know. I kind of lean to the over just because, Shevchenko is kind of happy to just kind of do fuck all and win a clean 50-45.
Right.
But
she is.
I think Santos might get. I have a gut feeling she's going to get scared by the big stage really quickly here, to be honest with you.
100%. Yeah, we'll see. I definitely want to see that Valentina dance she does at the end. So hopefully she at least wins.
But yeah, that brings us to the main event. We got the 42-year-old wonder, Glover Teixeira, making his first title defense against Jiri Prochazka, probably the most exciting light heavyweight in the UFC. I don't really know what I'm doing with this fight, to be honest, because every piece of tape to me says betting Glover at dog here makes a lot of sense. It's almost impossible for me to watch the first 2.5 minutes of Prochazka and Reyes get him down and basically just get too loose on top, but basically have the opportunity to mount him there and not think Jiri's in trouble if he ends up on bottom, especially when you look at his regional tape where it's like the guy's getting submitted by Brandon Halsey. Pretty much every time he's ended up on his back, it's horrible down there. His takedown defense looks bad. You touched on it when we were talking earlier in the show. You saw the Cejudo video with Cejudo saying he wished George was grappling more. Santino DeFranco, who's the head coach there, is predicting Glover to win the fight. Like, that is like,
he must have did something, dude. He must have banged with his girlfriend, or I think, because they seem kind of mad at him.
Dude, I am not a narrative guy at all. When the coach at the gym that you just trained at is picking your opponent to win this fight, and the best fighter at that gym is like, you should have worked on the wrestling more. Like, that's
who's gonna be in his corner? Because I saw he was training at Tiger recently, or it might have been Bang on that new where the Hickman bros are in fucking Thailand, but maybe they're mad at him because he fucking pees from their gym, or maybe banged their girlfriends.
Yeah, but they're pretty straightforward. Like Santino's podcast is not bad.
That's bad news. But maybe he was had his samurai sword in the fucking gym and they were like, yo, what's this fucking weirdo doing?
But I look at the fight and I'm just like, my gut is, I bet Glover on every fight on this run, every single one. But also the one thing I can't really get past here is he's given up significant offense to every one of the opponents he's fought on this run. He fought Carl Roberson, almost got finished 20 seconds into that fight. He fought Krylov, went to a split decision in that fight. Fought Kudalaba, got chewed up the first round of that fight before Kudalaba gassed. Fought Anthony Smith. Anthony Smith teed off on his head for 7 minutes before gassing out. You know, and then you have Jan or Thiago Santos, who had no knees, by the way, and hurt him badly twice in that fight. And so it's like, on the one hand, there's that, and I'm like, man, Fury's gonna fucking come forward like a bat out of hell, just throwing absolute thunderbolts from every angle, spinning elbows, flying knees, like
they come from all angles. Yeah, that's the thing, is he's like so unorthodox, and his striking is so weird that it's tough to train for a guy like that. But you're right. I mean, I feel the exact same way. It's like, I don't know why I can't just submit on Glover, but for some reason something's holding me back. Because you're right.
Look at the Reyes fight. Reyes is a bad striker, right? And you could see like Reyes wanted to counter him, but he was just like, "What is happening here? Like, what is coming at me?"
Dude, I mean, that was one of the most spectacular knockouts I've ever. That was like violent as fuck. That looked like Mortal Kombat.
So it was like hard to watch too. Yeah, like, I felt like you were watching the career of Dominic Reyes die in that moment.
I watched back the Dalloway fight, and just seeing how Dalloway it looked like he was gonna fly out of the ring. So that's the thing too that I think is probably holding me back is you're right. Glover gets hit hard almost every fight, and I think if Jiri hits you, you're probably gonna go straight out. Like, he usually just gets wobbled, or he still has some wits about him. But if he were to get hit by Jiri flush, then he's going to like collapse, and so that's nothing to recover from.
I do feel that way, but also, Glover does do a good job of like shelling up and trying to avoid it. It's a weird dynamic because like I have this feeling that Jiri's gonna nuke him, but also it kind of goes against every principle I have, because I feel like very strongly if Glover gets on top of him, he is going to fucking him, like badly. Like it is going to go. It's going to go sideways for Jiri in a hurry if Glover gets the top position, but. I was talking with Sean Orr about this earlier and commenting on how, like, Reyes should have, engaged the grappling a lot more than he did. And Sean was like, he couldn't. He was on the back foot the whole time. And I'm like, could that just happen here where Jiri just goes insane pressure and Glover just doesn't really have the openings? Because, I think there's like a misconception about Glover's grappling that he's like a very good wrestler. Like, he's a solid wrestler. He's an elite top game. But his wrestling, when we've seen him get dominated in the grappling by really good wrestlers in the past.
Right.
And like, if he's on the back foot, I don't know if he's going to have those opportunities. So I don't know. Like, I'm really torn here. I think I feel like almost obligated to bet Glover, but I don't know if I'm going to do it just because I really do think, like, you could sell me on Glover getting dropped twice and surviving and then getting a takedown and finishing him, Whereas you can't really sell me on Jiri can't stop a takedown and is on his back and survives this fight. That's just, I think if Glover gets the top position with enough time to work, he probably finishes or just severely compromises him. But it's like 42-year-old Glover. At some point, it's going to go. He's getting hurt every fight these days against, like you said, a samurai.
Bro, watching his samurai shit is too fucking funny, man.
It's amazing. He's so fun.
What's that movie with? I forget. Was it Tom Cruise or Keanu Reeves? One of them were in a fucking samurai.
Last Samurai?
Tom Cruise. Remake that movie with fucking Jiri. It would be amazing.
Kaiser said bet the under. I don't hate that. I'm thinking about it. I know Lags has a max bet on it. It's like minus 190 now for the under 2.5. I still don't think it's a bad look. But I mean, Aaron, what are your thoughts here? Like, how do you think it goes? Who do you think wins?
Yeah, I mean, I feel the same way. I'm a little bit of a Jiri fanboy, so I think he actually does connect and put Glover out. Like I said, I think if he connects, he's gonna put Glover out, like not just like wobble him. So, but yeah, I think the under is a good look for sure. I'm surprised they have that 2.5 market, but it looks like they do. But yeah, damn, it moved. I think Lags had it like 170, right? Or something?
Yeah, 170.
And that's not a bad look at all. I think.
I mean, 190 is not bad.
No, that's still not bad. I still think there's some value there because I'd be shocked if this were a, like a staring contest. I saw some people saying, hey, maybe, but I think
that's my concern.
Right. It's a pretty low probability, I think. I mean, Jiri is samurai, bro. Samurais don't fucking stare.
My concern is he's scared enough of the grappling that he does.
And that's always right.
Get lulled into trying to play an outside game.
Right. He just doesn't ever look fucking. He's like Golden State Warriors, dude. He's like he's like the Golden State Warriors of the UFC because his offense is just his defense is offense, and he just goes forward. He's moving his fucking head all over the place, and so yeah, we'll see. I would be shocked if it was a boring fight, but you never know these days.
No, I mean, I'm with you though, and like honestly, it's like I am not a gut feel guy, but like. Look, if Glover hits plus 200, I'll definitely have a small play on him. I just have this feeling that it ends now. You know that Jury's going to be the guy.
What a run though! Good for Glover, dude.
Dude, amazing.
Yeah,
I love. He's a fucking legend.
That's like one of the most improbable runs I think in a long time, especially because like everything that had to happen for him to become champ, like DC and fucking John Jones had to retire, and he just kind of slipped in there.
They might make a movie about it one day. Honestly, literally, I'm not even kidding.
ESPN should start making those 30 for 30s, and they should start with that. Like whatever they want to call it, 69 for 69. They can call it whatever they want. And that'll be a good thing for them to do. But yeah, it was awesome. It was like when he won, I was like this. Like I was like tearing up a little bit. Like this is fucking dope.
Dude, me too. Yeah. Over a 5-fight period in 2016 to 18, he got KO'd by Rumble in 13 seconds. Got his soul taken by Gustafsson. Ate about 100 uppercuts in the 5th round, and then got mauled by Corey Anderson. Like it looked like it was over. Dude took a year and a half, didn't fight for like literally almost a year.
Dude, Boomer of the year. Boomer of the century, man. He did it. Good for him.
He did it. I love Glover, but like I said, it's weird because I'll probably bet him if he gets to plus 200. But like, dude, Glover's reign is not going to be long, if we're being honest. Whether it ends here or in the future, and like Jury actually is fun. Where there are no fun light heavyweights.
I know. And Jury's been sparked out before. Like he's not like some.
He has been, and he's wide open defensively.
Yeah, he's all over the place. So
and Glover can crack him. He hurt Jan.
Right. You know? So it definitely seems like a bet that I would usually auto, but for some reason I'm getting held back a little bit. So
I hear you. It just feels like it's so hard to watch Glover's recent run, and like the Santos fight. Santos was only a distance for like 2 minutes that entire fight, and he hurt him bad twice in that fight. You know,
right. That's what it is. That's what's holding him back is he gets hurt every fight.
It's So anyway, that's my gut. My gut is Jury's going to win, but plus 200, I'll play Glover. Guys, thanks for joining us tonight. Aaron, you got anything you want to plug here?
No, dude. Just here to have some fun. So. If you guys want to follow me on Twitter, it's TOPKAIKI. But other than that, it's pretty much it.
Are you not writing the blog anymore?
I do occasionally, dude. I got to bring that back. You
do. It was funny. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I do have so much shit going on, dude. But that's something I want to get going back because it's a good part of my process too. When I review my bets and shit, write it all down. It actually helps me.
I didn't see if it makes sense or not. It
actually helps a fucking ton. So especially for a sport like this, so. I'll probably have that, but if you follow me on Twitter, you'll figure it out. So,
but yeah, guys,
all my shit on there.
Big thanks to Aaron for joining us tonight again. You follow my Twitter at TopKiki. That is TOPKIKI or KAIKI. I apologize.
There you go.
And you guys, as always, follow me on Twitter, John at MMA Fox. And yeah, guys, if you like the show, please drop a like and subscribe. We'd appreciate it. And we'll be back same time next week, 10 p.m. Eastern. Once again, thanks a lot, Aaron. Cheers, everybody.
Cheers, everyone.